The ultimatum. The conference hall orbited the neutral moon of Viridian 7, a place chosen specifically because no species had ever claimed it. Captain Marcus Hayes stood at the massive window, watching distant stars flicker through the station's rotating viewports. Behind him, 36 species gathered in tense silence. The air recyclers hummed softly, mixing atmospheres to accommodate everyone from the methane-breathing Corthax to the silicon-based crystallines. Marcus wore his dress uniform, the deep blue fabric crisp and formal. At 42 years old, his face showed the weathering of someone who had seen combat. A scar ran along his left jaw, barely visible unless you looked closely. His dark eyes moved constantly, measuring, calculating. Old habits from too many battles. The Galactic Assembly had called this emergency meeting. Humanity had been part of galactic society for only 15 years, and already tensions were rising. Other species found humans disturbing. Too aggressive. Too unpredictable. Too willing to fight. High Chancellor Voreth stood at the central podium, his crystalline body catching and refracting the station's lights. When he spoke, his voice resonated through translation devices carried by every delegate. The sound was melodic, almost beautiful, but the words were hard as diamond. We gather today to address a critical issue, Voreth began. Humanity's expansion into contested territories has violated 3 separate treaty zones. Human mining operations have disrupted established trade routes. Human military vessels patrol regions claimed by other species. This cannot continue. Marcus remained silent, his face neutral. He had been warned this was coming. Earth's diplomatic corps had prepared him for accusations, demands, and ultimatums. What surprised him was how many species nodded in agreement as Voreth spoke. Ambassador Kelthera of the Sivonian Empire rose next. She was tall and elegant, with skin that shifted between deep purple and midnight blue. Her 4 arms gestured gracefully as she spoke. Humanity entered galactic society with promises of cooperation. Instead, we see militarization. We see expansion without consultation. We see a species that treats the galaxy as territory to conquer rather than community to join. More nods around the room. Marcus felt the weight of dozens of eyes upon him. Some looked angry. Others looked fearful. A few looked almost sad, as if they had expected better from humanity. The Drexery representative, a massive reptilian creature called Thornax, slammed one clawed hand on his console. Humans are warmongers. Their history proves this. Thousands of years of constant warfare. They nearly destroyed their own planet multiple times. And now they bring that violence to the stars. That's not entirely fair, Marcus said quietly, but his voice carried across the hall. We've fought in self-defense. Every engagement we've participated in was either protecting our colonies or responding to attacks on our ships. Self-defense, Kelthera repeated, her tone skeptical. Is that what you call your fleet buildup? Earth's orbital shipyards produce warships at a rate that exceeds any other 3 species combined. Self-defense does not require such aggressive preparation. Marcus met her gaze steadily. When you've spent 10,000 years learning that the only guarantee of peace is strength, you build accordingly. We're not preparing to attack anyone. We're preparing to ensure no one attacks us. And there it is, Voreth said, his crystalline voice sharp. The human philosophy. Peace through strength. Deterrence through threat. This is not how civilized species operate. How do civilized species operate? Marcus asked. Because from where I stand, it looks like talking while hoping no one tests your resolve. The room erupted in angry murmurs. Several delegates spoke at once, their translation devices creating a cacophony of overlapping voices. Voreth raised one hand, and the noise gradually subsided. Captain Hayes, humanity's approach to galactic relations has brought us to a decision point, Voreth said. The Assembly has voted. By a margin of 31 to 4, with 2 abstentions, we are issuing an ultimatum. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. This was worse than he had anticipated. Go on. Humanity will immediately cease all military expansion. You will reduce your fleet size by 60% within the next standard year. You will withdraw from all contested territories. You will submit to assembly oversight of all future colony efforts. And you will pay reparations to the 3 species whose trade routes you have disrupted. The demands hung in the air like a physical weight. Marcus processed each one, understanding the implications. Reducing the fleet by 60% would leave Earth's colonies vulnerable. Withdrawing from contested territories meant abandoning established settlements. Assembly oversight meant losing sovereignty. And if we refuse? Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer. Economic sanctions, Vorith replied. Complete trade embargo with all assembly species. Denial of access to assembly space lanes. And if necessary, military action to enforce compliance. You're threatening war, Marcus said flatly. We're offering a path to peace, Kelthera corrected. But that path requires humanity to acknowledge its place in the galactic community. You are one species among hundreds. You cannot expect to dictate terms or operate outside established norms. Marcus looked around the room, seeing the unified front arrayed against humanity. 31 species, many with fleets that individually matched or exceeded Earth's. Together, they represented overwhelming force. The mathematics were brutal and clear. How long do we have to respond? Marcus asked. 72 hours, Vorith said. Return to your superiors. Consult with your government. But understand this, Captain Hayes. The galaxy has extended patience to humanity. That patience is exhausted. Accept our terms or face the consequences. The meeting adjourned. Delegates filed out in clusters, speaking in low voices. Marcus remained at the window, staring at the stars. His second-in-command, Commander Sarah Chen, approached quietly. She was younger than Marcus, barely 30, with sharp intelligence in her dark eyes. That went about as badly as possible, Sarah said. Worse, Marcus replied. They're unified. That's the real problem. If it was just a few species complaining, we could negotiate. But 31 voting against us. They're serious. What do we tell Earth Command? Marcus turned from the window. We tell them the truth. The galaxy just declared war on humanity. They're just being polite about it. Sarah's expression hardened. We can't fight the entire galaxy. No, Marcus agreed. We can't. But we can make sure they understand what they're starting. They walked through the station's corridors toward the docking bay where their ship, the Resolute, waited. The station felt different now. What had been neutral ground an hour ago now felt hostile. Marcus noticed other species watching them, some with obvious disdain, others with something that looked like pity. The Resolute was a heavy cruiser, 800 meters of armor and weapons. It was a newer design, built after humanity's first hostile encounters in space. Sleek lines, advanced engines, and enough firepower to level a small moon. As they approached, Marcus felt a familiar sense of security. This was his ship. His crew. His responsibility. They boarded quickly. The crew was already preparing for departure, sensing the urgency. Marcus went straight to the bridge, where his tactical officer, Lieutenant James Rodriguez, was reviewing sensor data. Any unusual activity? Marcus asked. 3 assembly warships moved into higher orbits around the station, James reported. They're not threatening, but they're watching. Making sure we leave peacefully, I think. They're making a statement, Marcus said. Let them watch. Sarah, get us out of here. Best speed to Earth. The Resolute detached from the station and accelerated smoothly into open space. As they passed the assembly warships, Marcus studied them on the tactical display. Each one was heavily armed, crewed by experienced warriors from species that had been spacefaring for centuries. Individually, any one of them would be a serious challenge. Together, they represented just a tiny fraction of what the assembly could bring to bear. "Captain, incoming message from Earth Command," the communications officer called out. "Admiral Peterson wants a real-time report." "Put him through." Admiral Richard Peterson's face appeared on the main screen. He was in his 60s, gray-haired and stern, with eyes that missed nothing. "Captain Hayes. I've been receiving diplomatic chatter. Tell me it's not as bad as it sounds." "It's worse, sir," Marcus said. He outlined the ultimatum, watching Peterson's expression grow darker with each point. When Marcus finished, Peterson was quiet for a long moment. 60% fleet reduction. They're trying to disarm us." "Yes, sir." "Withdraw from contested territories. Abandon established colonies." "Yes, sir." "Assembly oversight. Surrender our sovereignty." "That's the picture, sir." Peterson rubbed his face tiredly. "They're backing us into a corner. They know we can't accept these terms." "Which means they want war," Marcus said. "They're just making sure they look like the reasonable ones when it starts." "Maybe," Peterson said. "Or maybe they think we'll fold. Show our belly. Accept their terms because we're outnumbered." He leaned forward, his eyes intense. "What did you observe at the meeting? What's your tactical assessment?" Marcus considered carefully. "They're unified, which is rare for the assembly. They're scared of us, Admiral. That's what this is really about. They see how fast we're building, how aggressive our expansion is, and they're afraid. So they're trying to contain us before we become a real threat." "Are they right to be afraid, sir? Should they fear humanity?" Peterson asked bluntly. Marcus thought about Earth's history. Thousands of years of warfare. Weapons that could kill millions. Technologies designed purely for destruction. He thought about human persistence, human creativity applied to the art of war. He thought about what humanity had built in just 15 years among the stars. "Yes, sir," Marcus said quietly. "If I were them, I'd be terrified of us." Peterson nodded slowly. "Then we need to show them exactly what they're afraid of. Get back to Earth, Captain. We have 72 hours to craft our response. And I promise you, it won't be the one they're expecting." The transmission ended. Marcus stared at the empty screen, processing Peterson's words. The galaxy wanted humanity to submit. To accept limits. To become just another species following rules set by others. But humanity had never been good at following rules. "Course laid in, Captain," Sarah reported. "ETA to Earth in 46 hours. "Execute," Marcus ordered. The Resolute accelerated to faster-than-light speed, leaving the neutral moon and the assembly's ultimatum behind. But Marcus knew they were racing towards something far more significant than just Earth. They were racing toward a decision that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. Would they submit? Would they fight? Or would they find some third option that no one had considered? Marcus suspected he knew the answer. Humanity hadn't survived 10,000 years of warfare by being predictable. They survived by being dangerous, creative, and willing to do whatever was necessary. The galaxy was about to learn that lesson the hard way. The response. Earth hung in space like a blue marble, continents visible through swirling white clouds. The Resolute approached through standard traffic lanes, passing dozens of ships. Cargo vessels carried resources from the asteroid belt. Passenger liners transported civilians between orbital stations and the surface. Defense platforms bristled with weapons, silent guardians watching all approaches. Marcus stood on the bridge as they descended through Earth's defensive perimeter. The planet looked peaceful, but he knew better. Hidden throughout the system were military installations, weapons platforms, and fleets ready to deploy at a moment's notice. Earth had learned paranoia from harsh experience. The galaxy was not kind to the unprepared. Traffic control has us cleared for direct approach to Geneva Station, Sarah reported. Admiral Peterson is waiting. Geneva Station orbited at the edge of Earth's atmosphere, a massive structure that served as both military headquarters and diplomatic center. It was here that Earth's government made the decisions that shaped humanity's future among the stars. Marcus had been here many times, but never for anything this critical. The Resolute docked smoothly. Marcus gathered his senior staff and prepared to disembark. As they walked through the station's corridors, he noticed increased security. Marines in combat armor stood at every intersection. Automated defense turrets tracked their movements from ceiling mounts. Whatever Earth Command was planning, they were taking no chances. They entered the command center, a large room dominated by holographic displays showing real-time data from across human space. Fleet positions, colony status reports, intelligence updates, and economic data all flowed in constant streams. Dozens of officers worked at their stations, coordinating Earth's far-flung operations. Admiral Peterson stood at the central command table, studying a tactical display with several other senior officers. He looked up as Marcus approached and nodded grimly. Captain Hayes. Good, you made it. We've got a lot to discuss and not much time. Peterson gestured to the others. You know General Martinez, head of ground forces. This is Director Sarah Wong from Intelligence, and Ambassador David Okonkwo from the Diplomatic Corps. Marcus nodded to each of them. General Martinez was a stocky man with a scarred face and cold eyes. Wong was slight and precise, with an expression that revealed nothing. Okonkwo was tall and distinguished, with gray hair and a manner that suggested years of experience in difficult negotiations. We've analyzed the Assembly's ultimatum from every angle, Peterson began. The consensus is clear. These terms are designed to be unacceptable. They want us to refuse so they have justification for military action. Why? Marcus asked. Why provoke a war? What do they gain? Control, Wong said, her voice soft but certain. Our intelligence suggests the Assembly leadership has been debating the human problem for the past year. We're expanding too fast, building too aggressively, and most importantly, we're not following their established patterns. We're unpredictable, and that makes us dangerous. They want to break us now, while they think they can, Martinez added. Before we become strong enough to challenge their dominance. Ambassador Okonkwo shook his head sadly. I've been warning about this. The Assembly operates on a very specific philosophy. Cooperation through consensus, peace through mutual dependence. Humanity's approach, self-reliance and military strength, fundamentally threatens their worldview. So what's our response? Marcus asked. Peterson activated a new display. It showed human space, every colony, every fleet position, and every strategic asset. We're not accepting their ultimatum. But we're also not declaring war. Instead, we're making a demonstration. What kind of demonstration? Sarah Chen asked. The kind that makes them reconsider their options, Peterson said. He zoomed the display to show a region of space near the Assembly's core territories. Operation Shockwave. We're going to show them exactly what humanity is capable of. Wong stepped forward. For the past 5 years, we've been building something in secret. A project so classified that even most of Earth Command didn't know about it. We've called it the Colossus Initiative. A new image appeared. Marcus stared at it, his mind struggling to process the scale. It was a ship, but calling it a ship seemed inadequate. It was a mobile fortress, bristling with weapons and armor, big enough to carry entire fleets within its launch bays. This is the Titan-class supercarrier Goliath, Peterson said. 20 kilometers long. Crew of 50,000. Capable of carrying 300 smaller warships. Equipped with weapon systems that individually outgun most species' entire fleets. Marcus felt his breath catch. 20 kilometers. How is that even possible? Human engineering, Martinez said with grim pride. We took everything we learned from building megastructures in space, asteroid mining operations, and fusion power systems. Then we applied it to military construction. The result is something the galaxy has never seen. And we have 3 more in various stages of completion, Wong added. The Goliath is just the first. You want to show them this ship, Marcus said, understanding the plan. Make them understand what they're facing if they push us to war. Exactly, Peterson confirmed. We're not threatening them. We're educating them. They think we're a young species that can be bullied. They need to understand what humanity really is. Ambassador Okonkwo looked uncomfortable. I must express my concerns. This could escalate the situation dramatically. The Assembly might see this as a threat and respond with immediate force. They might, Peterson agreed. But I don't think they will. Wong's intelligence suggests the Assembly leadership is divided. Many species are uncomfortable with this ultimatum. They're being pressured by the more aggressive factions. If we show overwhelming strength, we give the moderates ammunition to argue for negotiation instead of confrontation. It's a calculated risk, Wong said. But our analysis suggests it's our best option. Accept the ultimatum, and we surrender our sovereignty. Refuse without a show of force, and we look weak. But demonstrate overwhelming power while maintaining a defensive posture, and we create space for real negotiations. Marcus studied the image of the Goliath. 300 warships in its launch bays. Weapons that could level moons. Armor thick enough to withstand sustained fleet bombardment. If the Assembly saw this, truly understood what it represented, would they back down? When does Operation Shockwave begin? Marcus asked. 48 hours, Peterson said. The Goliath is currently stationed in deep space, hidden in the Kuiper Belt. We're assembling a task force to escort it to neutral territory near Assembly space. Captain Hayes, I want the Resolute as part of that task force. We'll be ready, sir. Good. But there's more. Peterson changed the display again, showing a list of names. We're also sending a diplomatic contingent. We'll offer the Assembly one more chance at peaceful resolution. But this time, our diplomats will be speaking from a position of strength. Ambassador Okonkwo sighed. I'll lead the delegation. Though I suspect this will be the most dangerous diplomatic mission in human history. Probably, Peterson agreed without humor. But it needs to be done right. We have to walk a very fine line. Show too much aggression, and we trigger the war we're trying to avoid. Show too little, and we look weak. The message has to be crystal clear. We want peace, but we're prepared for war. The meeting continued for another 2 hours, working through tactical details, communication protocols, and contingency plans. Marcus absorbed it all, understanding his role in this dangerous gambit. The Resolute would be one of the escorts, protecting the diplomatic ships as they delivered humanity's response to the Assembly. Finally, Peterson dismissed the group. As they prepared to leave, he called Marcus aside. Captain, a word in private. They stepped into a side office. Peterson closed the door and stood at the window, looking down at Earth below. You understand what we're risking, Peterson said quietly. This plan could save us or destroy us. If the Assembly calls our bluff and attacks, we'll be facing the largest military coalition in galactic history. I know, sir. But you think it's the right move? Marcus considered carefully. Sir, I've spent 15 years in space. I've met dozens of species, studied their tactics, their technology, their way of thinking. And I've learned one thing. Respect doesn't come from being nice. It comes from being strong enough that attacking you is a terrible idea. And you think we're that strong? With the Goliath? Yes, sir. I think we are. Peterson nodded slowly. I hope you're right. Because if you're wrong, Earth might not survive what comes next. He turned from the window, his expression hardening. Get your ship ready, Captain. In 48 hours, we're going to show the galaxy what humanity really is. And pray they're smart enough to back down. Marcus saluted and left the office. As he walked back through the station, his mind raced with possibilities. Everything humanity had built among the stars hung in the balance. Colonies with millions of people. Trade routes that sustained Earth's economy. Treaties and alliances carefully constructed over 15 years. All of it could collapse in the next few days. But Marcus also felt something else, a fierce pride. Humanity had been pushed into a corner. Threatened with submission or destruction. And instead of accepting either option, they were going to show the galaxy exactly why threatening humanity was a mistake. The Resolute prepared for departure. Crew members loaded supplies, checked weapons systems, and ran diagnostics on critical systems. Everyone knew something big was coming, though most didn't know the details. They trusted their captain, their officers, and the chain of command that stretched back to Earth. Sarah Chin found Marcus in his quarters as he reviewed tactical data. The crew's ready, she reported. Morale is high. They want to fight. We're not fighting, Marcus said. Not unless we have no choice. Then what are we doing? Marcus looked at the data showing the Goliath specifications. We're showing the galaxy that humanity doesn't ask for permission to exist. We don't beg for our place among the stars. We take it, and we defend it with everything we have. Sarah nodded slowly. And if they don't back down? Then the galaxy learns what humanity has always known. Peace is preferable. But survival is non-negotiable. The hours ticked away. Earth's fleets assembled quietly in designated sectors. Supply ships moved equipment and personnel to strategic positions. Intelligence networks gathered last-minute information on assembly fleet movements. Everything humanity had built was being mobilized for one critical moment. In the Kuiper Belt, hidden among ancient ice and rock, the Goliath powered up its massive engines. Thousands of crew members moved through its corridors, preparing for deployment. In its launch bays, 300 warships went through final checks. The ship's AI systems ran through millions of tactical scenarios, preparing for any possibility. Captain Marcus Hayes stood on the bridge of the Resolute and watched the countdown. 48 hours had become 47, then 46. Time was running out, not just for humanity's response, but for the galaxy's chance to avoid catastrophic war. The assembly thought they were dealing with a young species that would submit when threatened. They were about to discover how wrong they were. Humanity was young, yes. But they were also the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever encountered.